Welcome to the Ambassador Arena. My name is Nentia Smith, and I manage the Young Scholar Ambassador Program at the Davidson Institute. Our graduating ambassadors have the opportunity to be spotlighted in the arena. They've worked hard over the past 18 months to develop and successfully implement their projects. Each ambassador has put together a short video to share their project with you, and afterward, they share their inspiring and encouraging words of advice in my interview with them. Today's presenter is Class of 2022 Ambassador Dylan. He is the founder of Philosophy Dialogues, which seeks to encourage more productive conversations by showcasing peer-to-peer philosophical discussions, as well as advice from experts dealing with polarization. Enjoy his presentation.
Hello, my name's Dylan Norman, and today I'm here to talk to you about my project, Philosophy Dialogues. Before I get into it, though, let me just talk a little bit about myself. I'm 18 years old. I'm a member of the 2022 Ambassadors Cohort, and I'm actually originally from Sydney, Australia, though now currently I live in the Bay Area of California, which is this area. Also, this August, I'm starting my time as a Vanderbilt student. Now, to talk about my project, I'd like to begin at the beginning. Makes sense. Since Philosophy Dialogues is primarily a series of discussions, the earliest stage of the project was naturally centered around coming up with questions to act as discussion topics. And I had actually already begun writing down a list of questions that intrigued me that I had come up with in the shower. Many of these shower thoughts form the basis of the philosophy questions that served as discussion topics later on. But I hadn't found a purpose for these questions until I saw the 2016 presidential debates. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that presidential debates typically aren't the greatest sources of a productive conversation, but this one was particularly divisive and unproductive. I realized that the philosophy questions I already had could be put to use to model productive discussion, and from then on, I started building the framework for philosophy dialogues. Now, the 2016 presidential debates were one of my inspirations, but I had two others. My first inspiration was my experiences with philosophy classes, where I got to engage with productive, fascinating conversations where people had little bias when entering the conversation. Now, the great thing about a philosophy discussion is it's really hard to have preformed ideas about these super theoretical concepts. They're not usually, well, they can be applied to political things, but they're generally outside the realm of common political hot topics. So this was what led me to create a discussion series centered around philosophy questions. Oh boy. My second inspiration was Daryl Davis, pictured below. He engaged with KKK members, and by confronting their beliefs, he's responsible for over 200 people leaving the organization. Personally, he's inspired me to challenge old ideas, and he's probably my favorite person in America right now. That's true, he is. It's hard to sum up just how amazing he is in one paragraph, so I highly suggest you check out his TED Talk, as his story is truly incredible. Now, Philosophy Dialogues does have a mission statement, and that is to encourage constructive, respectful dialogue with the aid of philosophy that shows people differences in opinion can be approached without debate or confrontation. The current project goals are to bring in a variety of people from different backgrounds to share their perspectives and ideas, to ask thought-provoking questions with no clear answers, to offer information from professionals on how to communicate, discuss, and debate in more constructive ways, and finally, to build a catalog of video resources that people can access for interviews and discussions centered around improving communication. Now, it's been 4 long years since the presidential debate, and these philosophy questions have been cooking up in my mind since even before that. So obviously, a lot has changed over that, oh boy, maybe 6 years now. The discussion series was a success in my book since then, with a variety of peers covering a range of distinct topics. These discussions covered the following questions. What's more important, the inventor or the invented? What are the moral responsibilities of any government? How does closeted racism manifest itself? And how should we approach language? Now, some of these are definitely very open-ended, and they led to long, really interesting, thought-provoking discussions. And to build these discussions, I really try to mix in a lot of philosophical research, a lot of philosophical ideas, but I also leave it open-ended so that it's a discussion that is free-flowing in the moment, that both I and also anyone I'm talking to can take in whatever direction they feel like. Because, well, to model good discussion, you also have to have a real discussion. That's how I view it. Now, each of these discussions resulted in 2 to 3 videos being made from the contents of them, resulting in a total of 10 videos of this series being uploaded. I've also created a new style of content for the philosophy dialogues in the form of an ongoing interview series. Thus far, I've interviewed Roger Sorrow, a certified trainer from the Center for Nonviolent Communication, Eric Gross of the Better Arguments Project, which is part of the larger Aspen Institute, and philosophy professor Scott Aiken of Vanderbilt University, who wrote a book called Why We Argue and How We Should. Now, I actually interviewed Professor Scott Aiken today. That kind of shows you how recently this interview series has started. And there's a lot more interviews I have set up in the future. Also, this might be a bit of recency bias, but I highly suggest you check out the dialogue I had with Professor Aiken. That was one of my personal favorites. No, in any case, I want to talk to you a bit about who the project is for. Though anyone can watch philosophy dialogues and hopefully get something from it, the project is geared towards fellow teens and young adults. I believe these folks form one of the most politically active age groups, so having access to a resource that provides advice and information around communication can help with discussion, debate, optics, empathy, and the ability to reach across the aisle, and other extremely essential tools for politics and life in general. And finally, I want to offer a thank you to the Ambassadors Program. They've given me a ton of help in many different forms. One of those forms was my mentor, Nantia Smith, who has checked on me regularly to make sure I'm on track and provide advice on what I can do next with my project every step of the way. Davidson has also allowed me to put out ads for peers interested in participating in the program in the Davidson newsletter. These ads proved essential for philosophy dialogues, as half of the people who participated in the discussion series actually came from these ads. Finally, I got to participate in monthly seminars that provided a wealth of information on topics ranging from networking to social media to goal setting. These seminars have helped me gain information and strategies that I use to focus my efforts and to ensure I was developing the best video series I could. Finally, I want to extend a thank you to you, dear listener. I hope you found this introduction to the program informative, and I also hope you'll check out my work on the Philosophy Dialogues channel on YouTube. For now, though, I have some clips to share from the actual videos I've made during my time with Philosophy Dialogues. Also, I know that makes it sound like it's final, but it's very much a continuing process, and I'll be continuing to interview people. So I hope you'll stay tuned to the channel and follow along as I produce more and more content. Now, that's enough plugging. The first of these clips is from the early discussion series and is a segment of a much longer discussion of language use I had with Lily Schwalb. The second clip is from my interview with Roger Sorrow, and to finish off, the third is from my interview with Eric Gross. I hope you enjoy, and thank you again for listening in. See ya. If you've ever been in like polarized political circles, you might find unique language among those circles that people outside don't really use. And it's kind of, at least from what I've seen, they act more like passwords or signs that you're a member of that group rather than going to prove a point, I guess. So I guess what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I do agree with you. I think this calls into question, you know, the purpose of words. And sometimes the purpose is not always just to communicate, you know, the dictionary definition. A lot of times words can have, you know, multiple purposes, and in many cases, one of those purposes is to act as like a group signifier. Or
Identifier, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think with your example of some words, some political words being used as like a password, I think that's definitely the case. And I think that just exemplifies how there's many different layers of words. You know, there's not just the explicit meaning, but there's also often many different implicit meanings behind a word. And then within certain contexts, those can definitely be used, like I said, as group signifiers, or, a way to signify that you are, part of a certain group, or have a certain set of beliefs without going into depth about all of those beliefs explicitly, right?
Thank you so much, Roger. I guess just to wrap up, do you have any last tips for young people who want to go about respectful disagreements?
Yeah, make an agreement to listen to each other, okay? And take turns talking, okay? Okay, I can listen for 3 minutes, okay? And then at the end of that time, I'm willing to reflect back what you said until I've got it, what you said. And then it'll be my turn. Okay, so if you can if you can make agreements about listening to each other like that, you're both much more likely to get heard.
And over the course of this deep exploration, we developed our framework, which includes 3 dimensions and 5 principles, which I'll give a quick overview on. The 3 dimensions we talk about as really providing the background and context for every argument. And this is history, emotion, and power are the 3 dimensions. And these are both things that exist and inform our disagreements. Our views are often informed by historical narratives. They're informed by our emotions, and they're informed by our perception of power dynamics. And but they are also things that we practice. A better argument should be grounded in history. If you have a viewpoint, you should be looking to back it up with historical facts. If you're engaging with someone else, you should be practicing emotional intelligence in that interaction. And if you're having a better argument, you should be doing whatever you can to create a level playing field to even out the power dynamics so that one person doesn't dominate the discussion. So those are the 3 dimensions. And then the 5 principles are a little bit more tangible steps that people can take and sort of act as conversational norms for a better argument. And those are, number 1, and most important and probably most difficult, take winning off the table. You should be engaging to learn and to express yourself rather than to win or try to defeat your opposition. The second one is prioritize relationships and listen passionately. That means active listening, and I think a more nuanced understanding of that principle is that oftentimes when we are arguing with someone, we think about them in terms of the view that they represent. X view and you represent Y group of people. Instead of thinking like that, we should try to have a more relational understanding of them. You are my friend, you are my colleague, you are a person I am in community with. 3 is pay attention to context. No one's view on an issue is formed in a vacuum. It's created by many influences, from lived experiences to the type of information that they have access to. And what that looks like in a bad argument is not having a sort of knee-jerk reaction to what that person's view is. Oh my God, how could you think that? That's crazy to me. It means taking a step back and asking why, and trying to understand the root causes of their viewpoint and what they really mean, rather than having that really initial reaction.
And now I'm delighted to introduce Dylan. Hi, Dylan.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here today. That was a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much for sharing your journey in creating philosophy dialogues.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being able to let me share my story too. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, of course. And I think that knowing how to have a productive and respectful conversation with someone who may not have the same views as you, I think is super important. I think it's a really important life skill. And I think it's great that that you're demonstrating it to others, that it is possible to have that kind of conversation, and there doesn't have to be a right or wrong. And I love that you're including young people in it as well, because they can kind of experience that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure. And I have the privilege of watching your project evolve. Right at the beginning of your training, you were still developing those discussion questions and trying to find peers to participate. And I know there were some scheduling issues. But now at the end of your training, you have several videos posted on your discussion series with teams. And in addition to that, you've also added an ongoing interview series as well. And you have several of those posted as well. And I think those are great. I feel like they've been going very smoothly for you. So thinking about the evolution of your project and your experience over the past 18 months, what has given you the most confidence?
I guess just being able to look back and see what I've accomplished and see the catalog I built up. Now, I'm not going to lie. At the start of my project, I was not confident. I wasn't sure if I had the right idea, if my project was actually addressing the issue I cared about in the first place. But as I kept going and I kept pushing through those insecurities, I eventually built up a collection of videos, as you said. And just being able to see that develop gave me a lot of confidence in what I was doing. And the work I had done was able to fuel the work I am doing now. So yeah, that's kind of how I gained confidence from this project.
Yeah, yeah. And I think throughout the process, you you kind of dug deep and went to that, that space of why am I doing this? And how else can I do it? Because maybe step one wasn't working out as smoothly as you had hoped, but you were able to find, other ways to do that, and you're doing it. So,
yeah, it was kind of a constant evolution throughout the entire project. It's like, okay, this doesn't work. Well, what can we do about that? And yeah, the project changed a lot, as you pointed out, throughout the time, but I'm really happy with where it's at now.
Yeah, and you should be. I think it's great where it's at, and I know you're not done with it, but I think it's a great example of having something in your mind or on paper that looks really good, and then when you go to do it, it doesn't always work out that way. But you had that persistence and the resilience to keep trying and keep doing it.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I think you put so much hard work and effort into this project. What is your call to action for our audience?
Well, I guess it would just be do something. Like, it's sometimes simply that easy. It can be hard to get off the ground and just get going, but I seriously, it's so much easier than you think it is. Just getting started is the hardest bit often. And I find that just getting going for me, a lot of what helped with that was asking for help. That's something you can do. And every person that has helped me along the way has just improved my project by leaps and bounds. And it's improved the product that I'm putting out as well. So those are the two things I would say. Just get started. This type of thing, it's not limited to just a select group of individuals. I promise anyone can do it. And then the second part is don't feel like you have to do it alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's great advice, and that's something that other ambassadors have touched on as well. It's like, especially having a project of this magnitude, you can't do it by yourself. You need other people to help you along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now that you've completed the training, what's next for you?
Well, I mean, in my personal life coming up, I'm starting my time at Vanderbilt University this August. I'm very excited about that. I love my school. But project-wise, excuse me. Oh, wow. Project-wise, I'm really sorry. I got something stuck in my throat. Project-wise, though, I'm interviewing my philosophy tutor coming up. I'm very excited about that. He helped me develop the project in the early days. He's quite a brilliant man as well, Mr. Patrick Clark. And then after that, I'm also hoping to get someone from a Vanderbilt center. This Vanderbilt center has a lot of similarities to my project as well, because a lot of their goals are around improving discussion and then also reducing polarity. So hoping to interview someone from that center And then in general, I'm still very interested in this whole area. So I'm going to continue trying to find and interview professionals from who work in the field of communications.
Great, great. I imagine going to Vanderbilt, you'll probably have a lot more resources, and it'll be exciting to see how your project grows from here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a big university with a lot of brilliant people out there. So I'm looking forward to see what I can do there.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So, and then lastly, one question that I've been asking all ambassadors, and that is, what advice can you share with young people who have a passion for helping others, but they don't know where to start?
Well, I have a bit of a 3-step process for this. So the first step I'd say is figure out what you're passionate about. There's a lot of issues in the world and they can get overwhelming, but narrowing it down to figure out exactly what issue you care about is essential. So to do this, I'd line up a list of issues you care about and just go through them. Which issue called the loudest to you? Which one makes you the most upset? Which one annoys you the most? Which one do you think about the most? These are all questions that you can ask yourself to figure out which issue you are the most passionate about. And the reason I stress passion so much is because I view passion like it's rocket fuel. Because on a rocket, when it's taking off, that's when it uses the most rocket fuel. And that's just like a project. During the starting stages of a project, that's when you're going to need your passion the most to get that project off the ground. And on a rocket flight, you may use passion throughout to also readjust to make sure you're still going towards your goal. And it's just like that on a project as well. But that's why I stress passion so much, is because you want to choose the issue that's going to give you the most rocket fuel, and the most fuel to keep going. Now, the second stage is figuring out what your skills are. What do you like doing? What are you great at doing? Are you a writer? Well, maybe you can write to your local newspaper about an issue that you think they should know about. Are you an organizer? Maybe you can organize a protest. Are you a speaker? Maybe you can speak to people in your high school or middle school and help spread information that way. Now, these are just a few examples of things you can do. I'm not saying you have to do these. But I would really take a look at your skill set and also take a look at what mediums work best for you to share your voice and share the information that you think people should know. And then the third and final step is what I've been saying all along. It's just get going. This is the step that people fail at the most because they get stressed. There are big issues in the world and it can become overwhelming. But just tackling small sections of that big issue, or even just chipping away at that issue, the benefits are enormous. I can promise you that. And just getting off the ground, as I said, it's easier than you realize. But just being able to do that will separate you from so many people. And it's the most important step in any project. Just get going.
Amazing advice. Thank you so much. And I love that you have this kind of a 3-step process, right? You have to know what you're passionate about. And that kind of also gives you direction, right? And I think that we've had a conversation before about having your passion be your why. That's going to create your internal motivation, like you said, for the times when, things are hard. You need that rocket fuel. You need that to kind of keep you pushing so that you can find how you can keep doing this, because more times than not, the first step doesn't work out, right? So I love that, your passion, your skills, and then just get going, because at some point you can only do so much research, right? And at some point you just have to get out there and do it. So
yeah,
great words of advice. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Dylan, for sharing your journey and your insights with us. If anyone wants to get in touch with you or learn more about your project, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, my project email is philosophydialogues@gmail.com. But if you want to reach out to me personally, you can also contact me at dylan.norman@outlook.com. Either way works great, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of the Ambassador Program, and for having the courage to go out there and do what you're doing. You're making such a positive impact, and you are a wonderful role model for so many young people.
Thank you. And I really appreciate the opportunity that the Davidson project has afforded me. I don't think I would have been able to do all this without it. So thank you as well.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. It was a pleasure working with you.
And me as well. Thank you.
So please reach out to Dylan with any questions about his project. If you have any questions about the Ambassador Program, please reach out to us at ysap@davidsongifted.org. That's YSAP. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.